Okay, everybody. Good morning. Bright and early on this bad boy because I was able to record the show the day before. The magic. I know. The magic of early recording. Welcome to Hot and Cold, our weekly feature on what players are flying up the board, what players are dropping down the board, and whether or not that has created a value bubble of perception that we can exploit. I am Dan Bespris, and this is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Find me on social media at Dan Bespris, DanBesBris. Hit that like button before you do anything else. Click it. Click it now. Do it now. There you go. You done did it? Okay, great. Now hit the subscribe button. Did you do that? All right. Delightful. And if you've enjoyed this stuff, Apple, Spotify, whatever, would very much appreciate a 5-star review. We have a billion names to get through, and I've done the courtesy this week of actually highlighting some of the names on the board, so those that are watching can remember which ones are the ones that I think had a little bit of an extra feature worth talking about. But we've got something like, 40, I think we're in the 40s in names to talk about, and we're going to zip through some. Some of these guys we're going to spend 15 seconds on. Some will spend a minute. I think we can do the whole show in a half an hour or less, and then we can start to think about how to exploit this information. So let's go ahead and dive right on in. It's Fantasy Basketball Hot and Cold. Who are the potential buys and sells in the fantasy hoops world based on current trends? You guys got the drill on all the stuff to share and whatever. So let's begin with some of the risers, and there's a whole bunch of them. We got 2 pages of these bad boys. Buckle up. I listed the how far they moved this time as opposed to what their new landing point was. And I don't know if that's more or less helpful, but that's just the way we went. So deal with it. Okay. Starting from the top, Brandon Miller up 75 slots, and a lot of that was a small sample size stuff, so there's not a whole lot for us to do with him there. Brandon Boston Jr. flying up the board 65 slots over the last week, and that's one where you are just riding it out because everybody's down in New Orleans. He jumped from 151 to 86, and he just keep on climbing because there's nobody healthy for that team, and there probably won't be for another couple of weeks. Ivica Zubac climbed 57 slots to number 63, and that, by the way, is without fixing his free throw stroke. So believe it or not, it could actually get better for Zubac. And I don't know what a potential Kawhi return, if that even happens at any point soon. I still am hoping by the end of the month. That probably takes a little bit of the shine off of Zoo because there's just going to be less pick and roll happening. But this is a ride it out right now. I know he's hot, but I think he can go higher if you were trying to think about a sell. Jaden McDaniels, he jumped up 55 slots to number 154. I don't care yet. He tends to go on these little 2-3 game bursts and then disappears for 8 or 9. But this is a different Minnesota team. Maybe this is a team where he just is going to take a slightly bigger role. I don't want to completely discount that, but I'm definitely not doing anything with it. Isaiah Joe jumped 53 slots from 208 to 155. It's basically because he had one good game after Chet Holmgren went down. I think the Thunder switch who's going to be the guy, but if it turns out to be Joe 2 out of every 3 games or something like that, then he would be someone to look at as an ad, but not anything beyond that. And right now, he's just a watch list guy. Larry Nance Jr., make him dance, up from 171 to 120. That's a 51 slot jump because he's playing. He wasn't even really playing before. Now, all of a sudden, he's in the rotation for Atlanta as sort of a power forward center hybrid, but part of a 3-center revolving door where none of them can really clear the hurdle unless somebody goes down. Amen Thompson jumped from 215 to 165. Still not a particularly good number overall, but I wanted to highlight him because we saw what he was able to do when Freddie VanVleet missed a game. And that's going to be the case anytime anyone on Houston misses a game, not just VanVleet. Except maybe Şengün, although I really do believe that if any individual starter is down for the Rockets, Amen Thompson's the guy who slides in. And that's what the sort of upside was built in. We figured there'd be at least 30 games this year that he starts, and that's when he can pile up big-time numbers, and you hope that those sort of counterbalance with not as good when he's exclusively coming off the bench as the 6th, 7th man. Jalen Johnson jumped 42 slots from number 91 to number 49. He still hasn't really fixed his percentages all the way. There's just even more for him to be able to climb into. Some of this low rank is turnovers as well, but like you take the good with the bad at this point. He's effectively a 4th rounder now, and he was drafted late 3rd, early 4th, and he hasn't even come close to hitting his stride yet. So nothing to do with that. Donte DiVincenzo jumped 42 pockets from 167 to 125. There's still a lot of inconsistency with Donte and Mike Conley, who's not on any of these lists, but those two guys kind of fighting it out for Minnesota touches on a team that's trying to figure out, I think, what the hell their identity is this year. So for now, all you can really do is ride that one out. And then Jay Huff jumped 41 slots. He is all over the map. Was number 45 after a week, then down to 112, now back up to number 71. And a lot of it has to do with whether or not the Grizzlies are playing blowouts. Grizzlies had a couple of blowouts. Jay Huff had like a 4 3-pointer, 4 block game, and so that's enough early in the season to move him a bunch. I don't even know that he belongs on rosters, despite the nice rank so far, because it's so difficult to know what the hell's going on. Michael Porter Jr. jumped 35 slots from number 67 to number 32. And now we officially get to the first player on the list that I do want to spend more than 5 seconds on. MPJ is at 18 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, 1.1 steals, half a block, 3 threes, 47.5% shooting from the field, 75 at the free throw line, and 1 turnover. The interesting thing about Michael Porter is that the change season over season is not that significant in a lot of ways. Last year, he was at 16.7 points. This year, he's at 18. Sort of a nominal difference there. 7 rebounds is exactly the same year over year. 3 assists this season is up from 1.5, so that's part of what's seen him grow. And the percentages, believe it or not, so far this year are actually worse. 3-pointers are up a little bit, so again, like the number of shots and where they're from is a little different, but not that much. It doesn't seem like the kind of changes that would jump him 35 roster slots. So I think what we need to think about here is, does just doing the same thing from now until the end of time, is that going to slowly drop him back in rankings? And I think the answer is probably yes. So as much as I actually liked Michael Porter Jr. as kind of, I think we just kept calling like a very safe play where he was getting drafted, a very safe selection in whatever that window was. It was like kind of around the mid 70s to mid 80s. The odds that he's going to stay in the 30s with this particular stat set feels kind of low. He's also higher on defensive stats, which there's been no indication that that's a thing that's about to just totally change year over year. So in all likelihood, he falls back outside the top 50. How much is sort of anybody's guess, because Jamal Murray's doing less and everybody's trying to do a little bit more for the Nuggets to kind of pick up for KCP is gone. Reggie Jackson's gone. Jamal is, again, sort of like a half version of himself. So, yeah, there's going to be a little bit better this year than last year for Michael Porter, but we're not talking about from 75 to 35. We're talking about 75 to like 60. So Michael Porter Jr. is a guy I think I would try to sell for. See if you can get somebody in the 50-55 range back that you believe is going to really stick there. Maybe like a Franz Wagner, who, again, he'll take a step back when Powell comes back. Other names in that range right now, Jalen Johnson, you might not quite be able to get him. Desmond Bane, while he's hurt, would be an interesting target for MPJ. I don't know that I would go any lower, but maybe you could aim for someone like Bam Adebayo, who's number 60, but figures to trend up as the percentages elevate. I don't think you're going to be able to get Cade Cunningham. You could try. He's got that lower rank because of the turnovers, so there's a little bit of that at play. Jared Allen might be kind of a wash. Both guys finish around in the 45 to 65 range, but there's a few names out there, maybe Pascal Siakam, that you could try to get for MPJ to lock in some of that value. As much as I love the next name on this list, and as much as he was one of our main flyer targets, Dyson Daniels, who jumped another 32 slots this week, I'm afraid is not going to stay where he is right now. Love him, love him, love him. He's number 28, though, on a wholly unsustainable number of steals. And the rest of this stuff has been pretty good. Not shooting free throws all that well, but like 14 points, a three-pointer, 4 boards, 3 assists, 0.7 blocks. The field goal percent hasn't been that bad, but 3.6 steals per game. And even if you think he has a crazy, mega, hyper elite steals season, like 2.3, that still shaves a third off of this number, and that's going to take his stuff with him. Also, we haven't seen the Hawks at full strength or really even close to it. They've been without Bogdanovic the entire year. They've been without DeAndre Hunter for most of the season. Trae Young just missed a game. Onyeka Okongwu is taking days off. Not that this is going to have a massive impact on Daniels, because he's clearly a building block for that team. But every little thing, like 13 shots, probably doesn't hold when they get more of their offensive-focused guys back in there. I would be trying to move Dyson Daniels for someone like we just talked about with Michael Porter Jr., who, you know, Michael Porter has a little bit more name recognition, but Daniels has a little bit more of the he's hot right now thing going. So see if you can get somebody that you believe profiles as a top 45 kind of guy the rest of the way. The names I just mentioned still add up. Desmond Bane, who's out for another couple of weeks, so that's a little bit problematic. But yeah, I'd rather have Bane over Daniels the rest of the year, but the guy with Bane might be just, you know, lusting for the dude who's putting up 6 steals a ball game. Who else did I just mention in that range? Pascal Siakam. You're not going to be able to get Paul George, Jalen Johnson, Tyrese Maxey. You're probably not going to be able to get those guys. Maybe De'Aaron Fox. Maybe that owner is going to get a little bit frustrated. Probably not. Franz is interesting, as we just talked about. Adebayo is interesting, as we just talked about. Cade is interesting. I don't think I'd go much farther down the board. Just see what you can put together, because it's that same phenomenon as MPJ. You go try to cash in when you can. A bunch more names on this rising board. OG Anunoby is up 32 roster slots right now, and he's at number 36. I don't think anybody believes that he's going to stay there. He's shooting the lights out, and that's great, all well and good. But he's shooting 50% from the field, 83 at the free throw line. He's been extraordinarily healthy so far, and that's another reason to kind of abandon ship. So I don't think you're going to be able to do that same tier right now as the other two guys we just talked about. But if you look one small click below that, maybe even a buy low on somebody like a Freddie VanVleet, someone might be getting frustrated there. Rudy Gobert would be kind of maybe in that next grouping of players. Ivica Zubac, Jakob Poeltl? Nah, maybe not. I don't know. That one's a little iffy. Or try the names that I mentioned on the last one and see if any of those stick. Tyler Herro is perhaps the ultimate sell high in all of fantasy basketball. And if you thought Dyson Daniels was that guy, it's Tyler Herro. He's shooting 51% from the field right now on high volume. He's been a one-man wrecking crew at 4.6 three-pointers, just career-high shooting markers everywhere. And he's gone on these heater runs before. Aim even higher with Herro, because there are people out there who just think that he's a second rounder now. So go try to get, somebody in the top 40. Go try to get Jaren Jackson. Go try to get Darius Garland. Go try to get who the hell else in there is perhaps attainable. Evan Mobley. Go try to get Evan Mobley. I don't want CJ McCollum. And I don't want you to go try to buy high on someone either. Go get Jalen Johnson, who we just talked about, who's not there yet, but he's on his way. I mean, Herro's got so much appeal right now. Tobias Harris up 29 slots, and he's on the slow climb right now. Tobias Harris is like just sort of treadmill walking. He was 137 after 1 week, 104 after 2 weeks, 75 after 3 weeks. He's just, no one's even going to notice, and all of a sudden he's going to be top 50. Anthony Edwards up 28 slots. Some of that is just like percentages beginning to level off a little bit for him. He got a couple of steals. He's still hitting a crap ton of three-pointers. And we'll see where that thing ends. Franz Wagner at number 27, believe it or not, is also a little bit of a sell high. And I know I said maybe he's somebody you could target, but a lot of that is the Paolo stuff. He's up to number 53 from number 80 because he's the man in Orlando right now. And I think you could probably get some of the other guys that I just talked about in that last grouping that are near him in the ranks that maybe have a little bit more staying power. Because Franz's numbers are pretty damn good so far this year. But go see if you can get Jalen Johnson for him. Go see about Paul George if somebody's frustrated with him. Go see about Siakam. These names we just talked about. Adebayo is a maybe. That's only if you need a center. You might be able to aim higher. Bub Carrington up 27 slots over the last week. Again, he's still sort of outside the super interesting zone at number 91, but he's been a play for about a week and a half now, but it's not like you're going to sell on him. Tyrese Haliburton he's up 25 slots, I should say, to number 54. The buy low on Tyrese getting a little bit tougher. LeBron James, frickin' cyborg, he's up to number 14 now, jumping 24 slots. Jalen Williams jumped 18 slots to number 19 overall. Josh Hart up 18 more pockets to number 34. And this is a prime sell high because at some point, dude's going to run out of gas. You just can't play these kind of minutes all season long. He's also shooting really, really well. And the Knicks have no depth at the moment. So go try. This is more like, who the hell were we talking about? This is more like the Anunoby price range. Go try to get someone that's like a top 60 coming back. Norman Powell is also very much a sell high, but kind of everybody knows that one with Norm, so that makes it a little tougher. He's number 20 right now, and he's putting up true shooting percentages the likes this world has never known. So you know damn well those are not going to hold. 53% from the field, while also hitting over 4 3-pointers a game. And the problem with Norm, of course, is that his fantasy game is not that versatile. Yeah, not many rebounds, almost no assists. The steals have been pretty good this year, and some of that's just playing gigantic minutes. But like with every little bit of usage that gets pulled away, his value drops hard. So try to get a top 50 guy. Treat Norm the way we talked about those first few names, Michael Porter, Dyson Daniels. See if you can get somebody locked in there just in case Kawhi ever does show up. And then you kind of protect your butt. And the last 3 big name guys rising, Luka Doncic up 13 slots. He's getting closer to where he should be. He's number 16 now. Donovan Mitchell up 13 slots, number 37. He's still got a little ways to go. And Steph Curry up 11 from number 17 to number 6. Let's take a quick break before we get to the droppers. And there aren't as many of those. Okay, here are your fallers. There's still a few, though. RJ Barrett, the biggest faller in all of fantasy basketball, down 81 slots. Yeesh. He's down to number 171. There's a little bit of a buy low there, but also you guys know me. I don't want anything to do with him in 9-category leagues, and this is only solidifying my position. Anfernee Simons was a guy that I avoided on draft day because I thought he was going way too high. I didn't think he was going this much too high. But at the same time, he's shooting a high volume 38%. He's just not doing enough to be fantasy relevant. He's always got something going on from an injury standpoint on a team that, if they're not tanking yet, they will be. And for him, top 90 is probably like a best case scenario if you're not punting something. So, yeah, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of a buy low on Simons, but I don't know what I'd even be willing to give up. Probably not enough to move the needle for whoever drafted him. Tre Mann fell 53 slots, and he was a drop, so that kind of makes sense because Brandon Miller came back. Mann fell from 82 to 135. Alex Sarr fell 49 slots over the last week, mostly because he somehow found a way to shoot the ball worse. But guess what? That makes him a nice little buy target. 9.6 boards, 2.4 blocks, 0.6 steals, 33% from the field. Yowza. And 71% at the free throw line, which is, I think, around where we probably expect him to be. But that 33% from the field is going to slowly eke its way up. And if everything else holds somewhat consistent, he's actually a guy you might be able to get for an overachieving injury replacement guy that's got like 3 good weeks on them, and go try to get the guy that's got a nice long ramp up. Jabari Smith Jr. down 45 slots. He's at 183. And again, there is a buy low opportunity here, but I don't know if it's low enough. I'd almost rather wait and see if somebody drops him. Jaden Ivey fell 40 slots from 128 to 168, and therein lies the rub with Jaden Ivey. He's just not a roto guy at all. Grady Dick fell 38 slots, and I put him on this list because I wanted to talk about him, because he's now going to head back up again with Emmanuel quickly out another time, and now it's a UCL. His ulnar collateral ligament is screwed up, and no, he's not getting Tommy John. Quickly will be back, they figure, in a few weeks. But all of a sudden, the usage is back right on the plate of Grady Dick, who was watching himself tumble with Quickly coming back and taking all those shots away. But now he gets to roll a little bit longer until presumably Scotty Barnes is the next one that comes back, and then we'll reassess again. Jaylen Brown down from 44 to 80. That's a 36 slot drop, and for him, it's been all about bad percentages. He's a little bit of a buy low, but I also don't know that his managers are even fully aware that he's been hurting them. So probably can't really get him. Mikal Bridges down to number 85, which I think is actually not that far away from where he's going to end up. I would just point at the fact that, and I know he doesn't ever get to the free throw line, so the fact that he's 4 out of 8 on the year doesn't feel like much, but it is a negative that's probably just going to slowly disappear. And when it does, he's going to move up like a round of value-ish. And the rest of this stuff feels somewhat repeatable, although maybe the minutes come down a hair. I think if you could get Bridges from someone who's seeing him falling and thinking he's going to keep falling farther, maybe you give up somebody in that same general rank range that perhaps doesn't have quite the same staying power, like a Karis LeVert, or maybe a Bilal Coulibaly, who's been fun to roster, but we have no idea what the rest of this season's going to bring, or Peyton Pritchard, who's been red hot so far this year, or a flame-throwing Benedict Mathurin, or Bub Carrington, who's been very fun lately, or Draymond Green, and just try to lock it in. Just lock it in. And because I think Mikal Bridges probably inches his way back up towards 75 from 85. So you give up one of these dudes that's going to be piddling around in that same area all year, but probably a little bit behind. That's a way to make a little bit of profit. Now, my back's been terrible lately, guys. I'm sorry for all the fidgeting. I can't find a comfortable way to record pods right now. Jalen Suggs down 30 slots. I don't think that this means anything because I think we sort of knew he was going to eventually peel back a little bit. Field goal percent has dipped. The defensive stats still are really good. The minutes have been fine. A lot of foul trouble mixed in. Free throw number probably comes down as the minutes could potentially get a little higher. This is fine. Buddy Hield down 30 slots. We talked about this a billion times. There was no way he was going to stay a first rounder. We knew he was going to cool off. And when he did, the Warriors were going to realize, as all teams do, that when he's not throwing fireballs from 3-point land, he's a liability. And I think we're going to have a hot Buddy Hield week or two, and then we're going to have some cold weeks, and it's going to fluctuate. And he's going to be one of those guys like Cam Thomas we talked about a lot last year. That's a buy when he's in a cold streak and a sell when he's in a hot streak, and you can just use him to move chips around almost all season long because that's the way teams use him. Chris Paul fell 26 slots, which sounds like a lot, but it wasn't really. He was just like, the last time we did this show, we caught him right at the tail end of a crazy heater, and he's just kind of leveled off, and that's fine. Just don't even worry about it. Brandon Ingram fell 26 slots. A lot of that was just efficiency stuff. He needs help. Funny thing, too, though, dude's taking almost 20 shots a game on that Pelicans team with no help, and he still can't get inside the top 50. Not permanently. He's number 57 right now, and he's very much still a sell. As that team gets healthy, Ingram's going to frickin' wear it. Jared Allen down 25 slots. He got off to an unsustainably hot start this year. Now he's down in the 40s, probably about where he belongs. I don't think we're at a buy or a sell pivot point for him. Jordan Poole fell 24 slots at the last rearrangement here from 6 to 30. That's going to keep going down, guys. If you can still sell Poole for a top 50 or 60 guy, you should probably do it because he's likely headed towards that 60 to 75 range when all of this stuff is said and done. And we know this because we saw good Jordan Poole down the stretch last year as Wizards point guard, and now he's kind of splitting that job with Bub Carrington. And Jordan Poole was around number 75. Well, in that role, mind you, he was about 20 slots higher in 8-cat than 9-cat. So, deal with that accordingly in your league if you're playing in an 8-cat league instead of a 9-cat one. 8-cat, you aim for sort of top 50 or better. 9-cat, I think you could get away with aiming for top 60 or better. But it's interesting that, he's a sell here. I should have color-coded him as such. I think I tried to make the green guys sell, and I tried to make the blue guys on your screen the buy lows. So let's go ahead and just make Jordan Poole green for still a sell, despite all of that. All right, back to read mode. Tyrese Maxey down 23 slots, but he's hurt right now, so you're not doing anything with that. Jakob Poeltl and Walker Kessler, each down 22. And it's weird. It was almost like I didn't... With Poeltl, it was hard to notice. I think the free throw number started to come down a little bit, and that's what's brought him back to where we sort of assumed he might be. But Jakob's been very good this year, and so is Kessler. And there's nothing you're doing with these guys. They've fallen a little bit, but it's just kind of where we thought they might be anyway. Frankly, I thought Poeltl might be even a little bit lower than this. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. De'Aaron Fox fell 18 slots, and I'm not doing anything with it. He's number 51. And there was so much about his fantasy game that didn't feel like it could add up. The 2 steals per game was extraordinarily high. The 3s number was extraordinarily high. This year, he's shooting the crap out of his free throws at 88%. The 3 ball isn't dropping. And the Kings are playing fine. Turnovers are kind of on the high side. De'Aaron Fox is both a buy low and a sell high all at the same time. I think he probably, if he just maintains this pace, his free throw comes down, his 3s come up, the turnovers hopefully go down a little bit. He'll probably inch up the board a little, but not much. So you're not going to be able to, it's a buy not low enough. James Harden down 17 slots. He's a buy low. I don't know if the guy who rosters him is going to care, but if you find that one, think about maybe more so on the roto side, because head-to-head, whoever drafted Harden was probably planning on punting either field goal or turnover or both, and so they don't care about his shortcomings right now. But if you're looking in a roto format, and I have him in 1 or 2 roto leagues this year, he's frustrating because he's costing teams points in field goal percent and in turnovers, and that's annoying. And maybe, just maybe, the team that has James Harden is looking at him, and James is a 3rd rounder right now, because of those categories, even though he's top 5 if you're punting those. Maybe you can get him for someone else that's close in that range, like a Donovan Mitchell, whose rank is not low because of super high turnovers. He's just sort of doing a little bit less this year. Maybe you could get him for Dyson Daniels and Jordan Poole, or Dyson Daniels and someone in the 55 range, like a Bam Adebayo. Put those guys together, and then, because with Harden, look, as bad as you might think he's become here in his old age, he's not going to shoot 36% for an entire season. That's going to work its way ever so slowly into the low 40s, something like that. And when it does, it's going to have a profound impact on his rank. I'm also going out on a limb and assuming that he's not going to maintain a 5.2 turnover mark. So he's going to work his way up the board. We just don't really know exactly how it's going to manifest. And I would see if you can go get him. Dennis Schroeder went down 16 slots. You're not buying on him because he still isn't low enough on that front. And then Chet Holmgren too soon. Prior to going down for 3 months with an injury, he had actually dropped off a little bit as well. Mostly just wanted to point out, and the injury game was a big factor because he only played 5 minutes in that one before getting hurt. But even prior to that, he had fallen into sort of like the mid-teens, which is closer to where we thought he might be. And at this point now, you're just waiting on Hartenstein. A bunch of news broke while I was recording this podcast. It was slightly distracting. But we're not going to talk about it because by the time this show airs, all of these games will be over. So let's wrap her up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to flip through the pages for the YouTubers, but for everybody listening, here's a quick recap on the guys that I think I've actually moved into an interesting range. On the hot board, Michael Porter Jr., Dyson Daniels, OG Anunoby, Tyler Herro, Franz Wagner, Josh Hart, and Norman Powell, I think are all viable sell-high candidates. On the cold board, Alex Sarr, Mikal Bridges, James Harden are guys you should be looking to try to buy right now because they're cold. And then Jordan Poole is on the cold board, but he's still a sell high because he hasn't fallen far enough yet. And honest to goodness, I almost could have done the same thing with Dennis Schroeder, but I think he's fallen enough where there probably isn't a reason to sell. You might as well just sort of see what the hell the future holds on that one. I didn't count up how many names there were. I mean, I could. It's probably fun to know. Here, let's see what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 12 on the first page. 3, 5, 8, 11, 13 on the second page. So 25 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 38. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. 47 names we covered today. Is that a new record on the show? Certainly doing it in a half an hour was a pretty good record. I'm starting to sweat. I've talked so fast, said the guy who always talks very slowly. I am also Dan Bashburst, and I hope you guys will find me over on Twitter so you guys can get whatever other stuff I decide to fire off into the universe. We're trying to break down schedules a little bit more on social media these days. That was something that was asked of me, so I'm attempting to do it. My goal, you guys know this, is to do as much as humanly possible 100% free for this season and see how it goes. I want you guys to think of me as basically like the hardest working fantasy analyst on the planet. Whether or not it's true is anybody's guess. But that's the way I want it to feel for all of you. So the more stuff I can put out there, the better. Again, make sure to check out that attached Google Sheet. That'll get you all the injury replacement stuff and streaming calendars. But this show was about hot, cold, buys, sells, and we are done. Coming up in just a little bit today, we'll recap that big Wednesday card. We'll tell you who the ads are, the drops, the news, all that good stuff. But for now, I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. Like and subscribe on your way out. Hugs and kisses, and I'll see you guys in a few hours.